Public comment, so anybody could speak.
Yes.
Um,
Bradford Tito?
Ready?
Yep.
Brad Tito, 52 Underhill Road, Supervisor, members of the council, Ms. Beville. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Now, I believe the way our water rates are structured, we pay a low rate for the first, I don't know, I think 1,000 gallons, and then a higher rate for between 1,000 and 50,000, something like that, and an even higher rate if we use more than 50,000. And this makes sense because high water use consumers should pay a higher rate than customers who use water more efficiently. This encourages water conservation. And water conservation is desperately needed, yes, because it's good for the environment, but also because it's good for the taxpayer. Every gallon of water that we don't buy from New York City is a gallon that we don't need to raise revenue to pay for. But what I came here to say is that multifamily housing should not be charged as a large water user in that top tier. Now, households living in apartments typically don't use a lot of water per capita, even if the entire complex uses a lot of water. Now, I couldn't find any information about this on the town's website. I don't know what the water rates are, and I don't really know how they're structured. So I could be wrong. Maybe multifamily housing is treated differently. But that being said, true large users, large single-family houses with properties with pools and large properties with irrigation, golf courses, businesses, any user that uses water in amounts way in excess of the average, they should bear most of the cost burden of these proposed increases, not ordinary families. And this leads me to a question. Will each of these tiers see an equal increase, or will the rates be adjusted so that most of the revenue requirements are made up by that high water user tier? My view is that 2/3 or more of these large, of the revenues needed should be raised in that top tier, the highest water user. This would make it more progressive and structure the rate increase in a way that mitigates the impact for ordinary families. I'm also suggesting looking at every possible way to cut non-personnel operating costs, invest in energy efficiency with new pumps and variable speed drives, invest in water conservation, and I would even suggest you table the vote tonight and look for greater efficiencies and far more equitable distribution of the costs. You know, these projects that are, these are important projects, but you're asking us to fund the entire wish list, okay? And that's fine. But I believe you need to do more to mitigate the impact on ordinary families. Thank you very much.
Victor, do you have any comments in terms of the tier system?
Well, it's certainly not a wish list. What we're really trying to do is to have a second source of water should one of our pump stations go down, because if we, I mentioned it the last time, is you know, you can deal with not having electricity for several days. You can deal with not having gas coming to your house for several days. Not having water, potable water coming to your house is a major problem. And the way our town is set up is that there's one pump station that serves part of the unincorporated area. There's another pump station that serves the other part of the unincorporated area. They are not interconnected. If one goes down, that entire area of the unincorporated area is without water. It's not a, as somebody had mentioned, us allowing the infrastructure to deteriorate. It was never designed to have an interconnection. We have recognized the importance of having an interconnection so that if one pump station goes down, we could then supply water, not 100% obviously, but supply water from one of the aqueducts to the rest of the town, at least temporarily. Looking for efficiencies and dealing with leaks, we can't bring our pump station down because we don't have an alternate to provide water. which means we don't have an alternate to provide, life-saving water, from, should there be a fire. We know that there are serious issues with our pump stations that we have not been able to address. Is this a major project? There's no doubt this is a major project. We're talking about going from Norwood Road to the East Runbrook Park, which involves going underneath the Sprainbrook Parkway. This is a major, major project, and it's not going to be paid for by property taxes. The only way it's paid for is by the water rate. And so, and grants, and we're working on both. And that's the bottom line. I mean, no one likes to have a water increase. Right now, and you'll hear it frequently mentioned, our rates are lower than United Water. They've consistently been lower than United Water, and yet we continue to do these major infrastructure improvements. It's much better and cheaper to paint and maintain a water tank than let it deteriorate, rust, and then have to pay even bigger bucks. I mean, it's amazing how much it costs to paint a water tank. Whenever you tell somebody that it's millions of dollars, they'll say, hey, I'll get a paintbrush and I'll do it myself. But obviously, who'd want to drink the water out of it after you did? So, that's the tough part. It's not easy voting on a increase like we're looking at, but we have a water advisory board with experts on there that have looked at all the options, looked at the efficiency issues, looked at grants, and they have come back and said that this is what is necessary in order for us to sustain the maintenance and the development of that interconnection. That interconnection is going to happen because if we did not do that interconnection, and someday one of those the pump stations will go down, we have trouble replacing, and if I'm saying anything that's incorrect, our commissioner will correct me. At some point, one of those pumps, which are legacy pumps, and it goes down, it's very difficult to then have the remaining pumps pick up that load, and eventually they wear out faster. And we're at a critical point, where we really don't have a choice. We must act. And I agree with you. We should look for every possible way of keeping that rate low. And we believe that what's being proposed is that lowest rate. And I just want to finish. And we're being very upfront about this. We could very easily have said, we're going to have an 8% increase, and that said anything about next year, or the year after, or the year after. But we're trying to be as transparent as possible with the public and saying, this is a major project, and it's going to involve an investment. And people think, oh, but I pay a lot in property taxes, that should take care of it. That has nothing to do with the water. The water is it's all based on water rates and grants. And I'm sorry that I interrupted.
And I just wanted to say, one other thing.
Oh, by the way, is there anything I said that was incorrect?
Our Water District Advisory Board, when we formed this, it was formed after a rate increase. And basically, we invited many people who showed up at meetings to criticize the Water District. So most of the members of the Water District Advisory Board were people who were skeptical about the town. They were skeptical about the Water District. They had concerns about the way the facilities were managed. They took a look. That committee's been in place for probably
7 years?
7 or 8 years. They meet, regularly. They basically, 1 year we were going to paint the water tanks. We got a bid. They made us go for another bid because there was only one person bidding. We still got only one bid, but they basically, are very, very critical. And I'd say, I think a majority of the people are very skeptical about government. So the thing is, we only did this after, we got their recommendations. And another thought is, we want scrutiny. And, I think that's why this Water District Advisory Board has been, so helpful, is because it's like another group that's independent of the town, that's not made up of yes people. These are all management people who have a lot of expertise. So if you want to get involved and you want to attend the meetings, or anybody here who just doesn't like these water rate increases, we welcome your participation. You could attend the meetings, you could get involved, you could ask questions, and I think at the end of the day, you'll come to the conclusion that we basically are doing, what's right. And again, many of their recommendations are being followed. So would you say that that's accurate?
Yes. Again, I have nothing to add. I appreciate the comments, and you're right. This is driven, the rates that we're proposing is driven chiefly by our proposed capital projects. These are projects that were correctly stated to provide a funding for the infrastructure to connect our two pump stations, to offer us a resiliency to the system. And there's also in here funding towards the end of the project for a new water pump station, so that we can achieve better efficiencies and remove us from the 1950s vintages that we have there, and be able to provide reliable service into the future. So this is chiefly driven by those future capital costs.
I have basically two questions from the blog. One question is, follow up the tier system for multifamily housing.
Well, we do have a tiered rate system. There are 3 rate tiers. The proposed increases are equally applied across each of those 3 tiers. And those tiers are set up to provide for a mechanism of conservation, and also are set to help address what we refer to as New York City excess per capita charge, which is a charge that New York City imposes upon those of us that are referred to as the upstate water users, when collectively as a group, meaning as a municipality, collectively our consumers use more water on a per capita, on an individual basis, when populations are calculated into it, as compared to New York City, and we go into what they call a penalty phase.
But what about apartments? Are they treated
right now? We have all our rates are equally applied across all different users groups. We do not have a specific user group for single family, multifamily, commercial, or anything else. It's the same rates that are applied. So it's that way, and who knows, in the future we can find, if the town board or others want, we could explore other options, but it's been traditionally that it's a standard flat rate across.
Well, it's based on meters.
Obviously, yes, it's metered.
It's not based on number of families, it's based on meters.
Consumption is registered through the meter. And what I meant by, we don't have different classes depending on the type of structure or anything that it's serving, that it's all based upon the consumption as recorded through the meter.
And one other question. Oh, you had a question?
No, answer the question.
The other question is, this is from the blogs that I read like every 5 minutes. Somebody wanted to know if after 5 years, is there going to be like another major, increase? So, right now, we've come in with a 5-year plan, and we're saying, okay, this is because of this water connection. What happens 6 years from now? Is there going to be another surprise, or is this basically like a one-shot major capital improvement, and then after it should pretty much level off?
Again, the idea behind providing to the public our 5-year look ahead is to avoid surprises, to be as open and as transparent as we can in our goals and our long-term plan. The Water Advisory Committee has worked long and hard on trying to develop a 5-year capital plan, and this rate plan is done in conjunction with that capital plan. It is one of the major expenses, as has been mentioned by the council, is the interconnection. But the other one, as I talked about, is approximately right now estimated at $32 million for reinvestment, rebuilding, replacing our Knollwood pump station. Again, that's something that we need to do, but we can't do until we have our secondary source resolved. And then, once we know that we have a reliable secondary source, then we can start investigating
So that would be after
opportunities.
maybe
And
that-
this is in year 5 currently that we anticipate will be in a position to start the pump station work. I would love to tell you that I could look beyond that. I can't, but I can tell you that from my experience in looking at our system, I don't anticipate a major project like another pump station. The town, through the past, has renovated most of our water tanks. We still have 2 water tanks in the process that we will be going through. We have 6 tanks, so we've done 4 of the 6 already. Those have been each around $3 million plus to renovate, so those are one major expense that we've been going through. We've talked about the transmission main. What that expense is going to be approximately anywhere from $10 to $13 million. We're hoping to have that project design completed in the next month and be ready for bidding probably a month or so after that. So we'll see what those actual costs are, but these are projected costs. Nothing has been bid yet, but that will be coming up in the future. And then beyond that, we're just looking at a routine reinvestment into the system for mainly cleaning and lining of our water mains, which would be done to help improve the flow of water through those water mains, reduce our discoloration complaints, and actually improve some of the system efficiencies, because if the water could flow through the pipes better, it has a little less energy we have to impart into the water.
And that's the Underhill Road.
That would, well, it's not only Underhill Road and roads around Underhill, but there are many areas within the town that we are modeling and looking at for continuing future. Again, with over 200 miles of water mains, many of that unlined cast iron pipe, it's a reinvestment into the infrastructure that I would foresee well into the future. In ways of doing this. And then the other part that we're also looking into is where we might have any additional weaknesses in the system that might have to be reinforced with new water mains or connecting water mains to eliminate single pipe dead ends so that we can have better circulation of our system. Again, as another way of looking at efficiencies built into the system. But really what this capital plan and this long-term vision is really a reinvestment to maintain the infrastructure of the town and not let it deteriorate to a point where you say, oh my God, now what are we going to do? Our system as it is a fairly, what we call a tight system. We do not have a lot of water leaks. We have a good handle on the existing, on leaks that might be out there. We get to repair them quickly, but we're lucky that we don't have a large unaccounted for water. And we think that overall, I would anticipate rates to stabilize after the 5 years, but again, I can't predict that far into the future, but from our financial projections, as you even noticed in the last year of this proposed rate plan, 2023, it already drops down to a 5% rate increase, because by that time we have established enough routine revenue to provide for the payments of the bonds to cover these large projects. And that's what we've been doing, is ramping up to make sure that we have, we talked about in past public hearings, a sufficient amount of revenue to pay for the bonding for all these capital improvements.
I think we may have another speaker on this topic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Evan Levine.
Mr. Supervisor, members of the Town Council, Judith Bevel, Mr. General Counsel Lewis, thanks for allowing me to speak this evening. Supervisor Feiner, thanks for asking my question preemptively in terms about what happens in year 6. I work in municipal finance. I've worked in the transportation sector for my whole career. For better or for worse, I know what it's like to issue municipal debt. I know what it's like to have renewal and replacement costs. I know what it's like to have capital plans. I am not opposed in any way to this infrastructure. I'm 100% convinced that it's necessary. Investing in our infrastructure is a national problem. It's a national failure. And it's, I'm encouraged to see that we are proactively taking steps. That said, I am asking you tonight, for a variety of reasons I'll lay out over the next 2 minutes, to reopen the public hearing for at least 2 weeks. And part of that is I'm considering myself to be a fairly active person in Greenburgh politics. I'm going to leave the Edgemont and corporation stuff for next week. But I learned of this last 2 days ago, the rate increase, the 42% rate increase proposal 2 days ago, when I posted it on Nextdoor, when I posted it on Facebook, the number of people who said, "Holy Toledo, like, where is this coming from?" One of the responses was, well, you, Supervisor Feiner, one of the things that you posted in our robust discussion, both via email and via Nextdoor, was talking about, sort of the email you had sent on June 26th, and from what we learned from the webmaster today is that most people on the Greenburgh list didn't get that email, talking about, please come to the meeting on June 26th because of the attachments that were attached to it. So I do believe that a lot of people who have views on this, who have strong opinions on this, who want to learn about this, really would like, at least a minimum, an additional 2 weeks to learn about truly what is being happening. Councilman Sheehan, you spoke passionately just before about the need for these projects. It was very compelling and convincing. I think a lot of my fellow residents would benefit from hearing that. I think also in terms of communication as it relates to, the GB email list, I would encourage you to publicize the existence of that list. When I moved to Greenburgh 4+ years ago, we used to get, I would say, monthly or quarterly newsletters from you, that laid out sort of what the town was working on. We don't get them anymore, and I didn't even know the email list existed. So I would encourage folks to reopen for 2 weeks, not because I opposed the project, but because I think this is a vital project for the community, and that the more people that know about it and can input would be beneficial to all of us.
Victor, if there'd be a 2-week delay, would that create major problems for you?
First off, we were proposing a rate effective August 1st. Any continued delay, it's a matter of revenue stream. It's something
If
that...
we did it July 20, we're having our meeting July 24th, so it wouldn't really have any impact.
At this point, it's more of a long-term project, so a few weeks either way would not materially impact our overall revenues. It's something that, the board obviously want to consider. I just wanted to address briefly, though, the 42%. That is correct, but remember, this is for a 5-year cumulative. And also, the last time we raised rates was 2017, so actually it's been 7 years, and it would be a cumulative increase of 7 years if you go back to 2017 to 2023. And while it is definitely a large percentage, as I said earlier, and I mentioned Mr. Lehman did notice that it's capital driven. This is not that we're willy-nilly spending money. It's a matter of specific projects and specific needs for reinvestment into town's infrastructure for water use and water-specific purposes. This is specifically to the water department. And we believe that this is the most efficient way we can go about providing for these projects. Unfortunately, nothing comes cheap. And say looking at anywhere 10 to 12, maybe 13 million for an interconnection, 32 million plus for a water treatment plant, and an annual reinvestment of anywhere $3 to $4 million for cleaning and lining of water mains. It's significant monies. It was also mentioned, though, that we have been very successful in the grant market, and we've received grants of almost, I believe it was somewhere around $9 million for some of our projects. So we've been very successful there, and we hope that there will be future opportunities that we could offer applications for to help you receive from grant money. These aren't low-interest loans that we're talking about. It's actual grants, and I think it's been a great offset for us.
And we continue to explore more.
Yes, we do.
So
Yes.
So maybe, since it was planned for August 1st and our next meeting is July 24th, why don't we hold this over, have a definite vote on July 24th? It's not going to have any impact in terms of, your ability, because, most of the board members are, I think everybody recognizes that we have to do this, so you could do the same planning, and meanwhile, this gives you a chance to speak to some of the people who have been critical, and they could learn more. If people have questions, they could show up at the meeting. And as I said to you in an email, earlier tonight, if you want to join the Water District Advisory Board, we'd welcome your involvement, because we really are not looking for yes people. We're looking for people who are going to be critical thinkers, ask questions. I think of all the infrastructure things we've done, I think, Francis, you mentioned this a few years ago, this is probably the most significant, because, everybody, say in Edgemont, when we've had the Con Ed outages and people were out for 2 weeks, people freaked out. could you imagine what would happen if there'd be a water outage for 2 weeks? You know, it would be horrible. You know, even people are complaining, oh, you know, yesterday I got an email from somebody on Underhill Road saying it looks horrible and we ruined their son's bar mitzvah because they were looking at the pipes rather than the country club. And they don't realize that they should be thrilled, people should be thrilled that we're doing, you know, we're improving the lining, it's gonna be cleaner water, better water pressure, you know, more efficiencies. We're taking action steps that's making it better, and there's, you know, no pain, no gain. But we basically have to do this.
And just wanted to remind the public and its members here that we did make a presentation. There was a PowerPoint that I tried to explain a lot of the financials of the water district. I would expect that that is available if you go back to the,
Well,
what
that's
meeting
why,
was that?
that's why my email didn't get to any, you know, most
Right.
people
You're right.
because I have the attachment.
And that's actually, that's what
That
you,
was
yeah,
the
that was the
problem.
attachment, and I guess it was
So you
too
call-
large
you
and it got
caused the
bounced back, huh?
problem, so not me.
Yeah, so,
You're always like
Victor,
scapegoat.
maybe
It was
a
a
better
different
way-
kind of infrastructure problem.
Victor, maybe
Yeah.
a better way is to attach a link to the, to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
perhaps town
so that-
supervisor
that
can
it
work with our web
doesn't
people on
go
that,
into
yeah.
junk
We
mail
should
or
have
spam.
actually done like a YouTube on, you know, on that.
Again, maybe you could work with our web
Yeah.
folks and find that, but the information is there, and I think anybody could find, obviously, the town's website, look through our meeting archives, and you'll be able to get that video. But whatever the town board chooses to do, it's.
But I have been
I'll-
sending it to everybody who
Okay.
asked for it, you know, one-on-one,
Yeah.
and people have been getting it.
And we could make a YouTube of tonight's discussion as well to include.
Okay.
Thank you
So
very
just
much.
from a procedural perspective, I'm sorry, Ken, the hearing has been closed, so none of these comments would be included in the hearing minutes. Certainly, people could come on the 24th and make public comments, but with respect to, I think, Mr. Levine's comments about reopening the hearing is currently closed and
Right, but we,
is
people can
just,
still, right, we're not gonna take a vote until July 24th, and if people have questions, they could email or they could write, and then we'll get back to people.
okay.
I just wanted to say, it's worth underscoring that even with these increases, our rates remain lower than surrounding rates.
Could you mention, do you have comparisons, just
Yeah.
so the people here could just, you know, hear?
Yeah, again, these are, the question about where do we, and now, of course, obviously, we're still impacting people's wallets directly with these rate increases, and I
Of course,
respect
sure,
that.
of course.
But what we're also, though, is trying to demonstrate by this is how we believe in efficient operation. What we routinely do when we're considering water rate increases, we take a look at neighboring municipalities, other communities, what their water rates are, and we try to draw out some comparisons. Now, I don't have the rates directly in front of me at this point, but what we did is through our consultant, he took the water rates and took an average consumptions and figured what an average bill would be. And an average bill for communities from between Scarsdale, Greenburgh, Sleepy Hollow, Rye, Mamaroneck, Harrison, Suez Water, Larchmont, City, New Rochelle, they range from $27 to $67 for the same volume of water that was consumed. The town of Greenburgh, currently, we would be number 2 lowest at $30.79 for I believe it's the average water consumer, and I think that was 15,000 gallons a quarter. Don't quote me on that number, I don't have the data in front of me, but with the proposed rate increase, we would still be the second lowest, $33.41. So Scarsdale's the cheapest at $27.39. Sleepy Hollow would be next at $42, and it rises up to Suez at $53, Larchmont at $54, and City of New Rochelle, well, that's actually a portion of Westchester Joint Waterworks territory, is a high of 67. But the basic grouping, and there was a slide that I'd present, it's in the $40 a range for an average monthly water bill for most people, and we're in the 30s. So what we're trying to do.
Suez is in the town of Greenburgh.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
A
it's-
number of us have the Suez water.
So, yes,
In
yes.
fact, I got an email from somebody.
Thank you for the
I got
clarification.
an email from somebody yesterday where I live at Boulder Ridge, and they basically asked if we could take over Suez.
Right, what number were they?
Suez is $53.66, and as we're taking, I'm trying to give you the volume of water. I apologize that my slides didn't present the
But if
actual
we were
volume.
the second lowest, where are they?
Excuse me?
If we are the second lowest, where are they in the ranking?
They would be, as far as the numbers that we have here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Out of the 12, they are 10 out of 12 as far as the highest.
Okay.
Maybe we should move.
So we would, you know.
And that's with our increases.
That's with our increases, yes. Again, these slides, actually, I apologize to the public that these were actually provided to supervisor, and again, for some MAS reasons, it didn't get out there. But it was our intention to provide these slides, which demonstrate the financials of the water department to the public, so that we could be as transparent as possible. And I guess we worked out those technical details, and
Apparently what happened is that the video was large enough so that many spam filters would not allow it to get through, so many people did not get it. You're correct, whoever said that it didn't get out. And so instead of sending the actual video as part embedded in your email, we'll have to just send a link and let that
Right,
that
and
goes in.
Joe Lucchese, the webmaster, indicated that when we're going to have an updated, better website, probably in August, the beginning of August,
Right.
that's going to be less clutter and give people options. So let's say somebody doesn't want to get the emails from they could just subscribe to like emergency notices. I mean, there's going to be menus and options for people, but I think with a new site, we will be able to email the link, the links rather, the attachments, according to him.
thank you very much.
Thank you.